Hey y'all, welcome to GM Grovescape. Today, we're diving into the third episode of Project Banyan Fig. In the last one, we put cuttings in the propagation box to grow roots. After a few weeks, where did that lead us? Well, some made it and some didn't. That's the honest summary of what happened after episode 2. The propagation box did its job for the most of them. Callus tissue, then roots, exactly as we were looking for, but we lost several. Mold. Once it starts in a closed humid box, it moves fast, and some cuttings didn't survive. That's not failure, that's just propagation. You start multiples because you expect losses. The ones that made it through, those are the ones that matter now. So in December, I moved the survivors to nursery pots. Standard potting mix. Nothing complicated. The goal at this stage isn't sophistication, it's just giving them somewhere stable to put down roots and establish before we ask anything of them. And then we wait. That's the part nobody films. Weeks of sitting, watching for new growth, making sure nothing dries out or drowns. Fig cuttings at this stage are still fragile. They look established before they are. So, after we wait, several months will pass. And this is what several months looks like. We've got our Smith figs. We've got some others that we propagated, LSU O'Rourke, North Carolina Cold Hardy, Texas Blue Giant. But the Smiths are what we're concerned about here, the ones that we talked about in episode 1. That came from that unexpected afternoon with too many cuttings and no real plan. They've established real leaves, real root systems, real growth. They're ready for the next step. The next step is the one this whole project has been pointing toward. But before we plant anything, the column has to exist. So we pull our Smith figs and then we go get started on the column. And the structure at the center of this is built from 2 materials, wire mesh and dried ochre stalks. Neither one cost anything. The ochre came from last season's garden. The wire mesh was left over from another project. There's a principle behind that. Using what the property already produces to build what the property eventually will become. If that idea resonates with you, it's something I go into in the Hidden Harvest Handbook. The link is in the description below. The mesh gets cut to length first, tall enough to give the figs somewhere to climb in the early years, narrow enough that the roots and trunk will eventually cover it, rolled into a cylinder, zip tied along the seam. Nothing elegant about this stage. It just needs to hold its shape. Then we can trim off the ends of the zip ties. And then we'll go lay out the ochre stalks to put on the outside. We lay it all out flat first, and then the mesh cylinder is set into them. And this is all tied into a bundle. The stalks are there for 2 reasons. First, they give the roots something organic to find and attach to as the figs grow outward and begin reaching for the column. Second, they break down over time. And by the time they do, the fig roots should have replaced them as the outer structure. The column is meant to disappear, and that's the point. But we'll come back to that. And once it does disappear, if those ochre stalks are still there, you can remove them and then pull the mesh cylinder out. And there it is. There's the column. So out of everything that rooted and established, we are pulling those 3 Smiths. They're genetically identical. And we're going to start assembling this. The column goes in first, centered in the container. Then 3 cuttings go in around it, evenly spaced. At this stage, I'm not weaving or braiding anything. They're too young for that, and forcing it now would only damage them. What I'm doing is positioning them close enough to the column that when the training does begin, the movement will be natural and short rather than forced and sudden. Think of this as setting intentions rather than taking action. The action comes later when the wood is longer and more flexible and the trees have forgotten they were ever separate. You put soil in around them, tamp gently, good contact between the roots and the medium, no air pockets, water it in. And that's the planting. Simple, unglamorous, but important. And since these These Smith cuttings all came from the original same plant. They're all genetically identical, and as the braiding occurs, they should seamlessly fuse together. And here's what the beginning of Project Banyan Fig really looks like. The trees that don't know yet that they're going to become one with a column that they don't know is temporary. Here's where this is going, and I want to say this plainly so the long-term goal is clear. Over time, these 3 Smith figs will grow around this column. Their roots and trunks will weave and meander and eventually fuse together in a crosshatch pattern, the way a strangler fig consumes a host tree. Once that fusion is established and the form is holding itself, the okra stalks come out, or they'll have already broken down on their own. Then eventually, the wire cylinder comes out too. What's left will look exactly like a strangler fig that has consumed another tree, a host tree that has since rotted away and disappeared inside the root mass, except there was no host tree. There was a column of wire mesh and a plan and a few fig cuttings that somebody gave away on an afternoon in South Louisiana. A fig tree that doesn't look like a fig tree. A structure that was never really there. That's the hidden harvest taken to its logical end. The next update on this project won't come soon. That's deliberate. These need time to push new growth, to settle into the container, to start reaching towards the column on their own terms before I start directing them anywhere. When we come back to this, there will be something real to train. If you want to follow the whole project through, the playlist is linked below. And if you're building your own hidden harvest, the kind that produces real food while looking like it belongs in a refined landscape, the Hidden Harvest Handbook goes deeply on exactly that. The link is in the description below. Thanks, and do the internet video thing. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching GM Grovescape. Bye.